Hello and welcome to Camera Review. Today we are going to continue our discussion on the Panasonic's new camera, which is S1H. It is the latest release for video capable or video centric camera, and I have had so many questions. I had over 120 emails asking me of what I think about this camera. Although I made a video yesterday which I provide a link for you to watch, there has been more confusion than answers. And the answer that people are looking for is it the right camera for me? And that question can only be answered by looking at what the specs are saying about that camera. Also, how the user functionality will merge with the way that camera is designed. I have had this very important question that came up, which is the Blackmagic 6K. And as you know, that camera have recently been released and is touted as one of the best cameras out there for filming purposes. And people have asked me, is it better to buy the Blackmagic or should I buy this new S1H? And I said, it depends on your needs. And that is one question that I want to discuss, and also compare both cameras to give you a basic idea of how this camera is going to perform against a camera like Blackmagic 6K. Now, first of all, you have to understand that they are of different sizes, different weights. S1H is a little bit more heavier. It's 1,164 grams, and that is about 2.56 pounds. The other camera, Blackmagic, is a little lighter and it comes in at a pound and 98, so that's almost 2 pounds, and we're talking about a weight of 898 grams, so it's like almost 900 grams. So what that is saying to you is that you're gonna have a little bit more heavier camera when you go with the S1H. Also, Blackmagic has had a long history of producing cameras for video, and what I mean by that is video, small size, compact, tried out, things that are appealing for a filmmaker on a budget. Whereas Panasonic has been doing Lumix and everything else, but they have basically designed their cameras around the videographers, the wedding photographers, wedding videographers, events persons who do videos of that sort. So the way that mentality has been centered around these concepts have translated into the S camera, which is the S1H. And that's not to take away that it has some incredible specs, yet at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers, it gives you an idea of what it is going to do. And the image quality that you get from these two cameras is so different that it's like day and night. And the reason is not the sharpness, it's not the way that it has these high pixels and everything else, or how it performs in the low light. What it is the way the colors, the color science is being designed around it, which is what I will get into in a bit. But first of all, let's look at all the specs and let's discuss how this camera is. So let's look at the S1H, which has got 6,000 by 4,000, which is a 24.2 megapixel sensor, versus a Super 35 sensor, which is found on the Blackmagic 6K. Now, Blackmagic 6K, if you look at the numbers, it's a little different. It's 6,144 by 3,456. So what that means is that it has an elongated sensor. It's not the same kind of sensor that you'll find in the full frame, which is the standard size. So what this design is basically to make film. Film is what they're intending to do. So they're thinking that most people would like to have a cinemascopic look or something that is elongated that gives you a cinematic look. Now, as you may know, most of the videos are done by 16 by 9, and that's almost standard, or they go with the standard frame size that comes with full frame. So what is going to happen here is, if you are going to do video and then you shoot it on a full frame and then you crop it for film, you are actually having less resolution than if you were using the full frame on the Blackmagic. So let me repeat that. So if you are making a film and you're going to crop it and make it a long frame, which is like a cinemascopic frame, you're going to use what Blackmagic is offering you. So there is absolutely the best you can get out of that. So there's no cropping, nothing. You're getting the full frame. What's happening with the S1H is you're using it, and then if you're in the post, you're cropping the bottom and the top to create that elongated look. You're getting actually using less of the full frame to get the cinematic look that you're after. Also, if you look at the specs, you're also going to find something very interesting. This camera, even at full frame, crops a little bit. And if you look at the 6K output, it's 5052 by 3968. So it's just a little crop there to get that thing that you are using a full frame. Now, also, here is an interesting thing. You're shooting both 6K. So what is it that you're getting as a codec that allows you to do post-processing? That's what the film industry's standard is you shoot in these expensive cameras, so you have this incredible flexibility to make a cinematic image. Now, when you look at the output that the S1H has, it's only 200 megabits per second, versus what is in RAW is 483 megabits per second on the Blackmagic. So you're getting almost 2.5 times the amount of information that is available in the post-processing. You're actually getting a raw image. A raw image means that you are going to have absolutely the most powerful tool in your hand to start editing. And a raw image means that you can correct it in the way, color correct it in the way that you want it to create that very cinematic look. Now, if you're not after cinematic look, or if you're not after film look, that's a whole different category. But if you want to create a dreamy wedding scene that looks like it's out of a movie, well, Blackmagic is where it shines. But with the S1H, which has a very different codec, you are getting a much smaller file size that's going to be so easy to edit. You pass it on, you charge a couple of thousand, and you're happy with it. But you can go with the Blackmagic and charge a lot more if you are after a cinematic look. But that also requires you to have filming capabilities, and you have to know how to use the camera and be able to edit it. So those are all conditions that you have to apply to your business if you are in that arena. Also, if you're a filmmaker or want to be a filmmaker and you want to use a camera that is designed for that, Blackmagic again shines, because not only does it offer you a much better useful area on the sensor to get you the best image possible, but also in the frame rates that you are having. Now, if you look at the frame rates, you're getting 24 frames per second on the new S1H, but what you're doing on the 6K in the Blackmagic is 50 frames. So you're getting a slow motion if you choose to use it. So if you have like 48 frames, which is double the amount, so you're getting double the slowness that you can attain, which is incredible because you still got to 6K. When you crop it, doesn't look bad, and it gives you a much more crisper, more detailed image at the end of the day. Again, if you look at the numbers, there are things that S1H does a little better than the Blackmagic, which is it can go up in a much higher frame rate, but 120 frames per second on a Blackmagic at 1080p is a very decent number. I don't see people trying to use the 180 or more if you're trying to do that kind of a slow motion. But is important is that you're getting 120 frames. It's going to give you all that you need in terms of creating that slow motion. Again, if you look at the numbers, in order to go to 4K DCI, which is the 4096, not the UHD at 3840, we're talking about the cinematic standard. What you are having is 60 frames on the S1H. Similarly, you're having 60 frames at the 4K level on both cameras. Again, the output on the Blackmagic is more intense and more powerful for editing purposes. So that is very, very important. Also, you have to consider RAW is a very special way of capturing video or film that allows you the maximum capabilities. These cameras still haven't gotten up to that, When we're talking about the RAW, you're getting 12, 14 bits. When you're getting 10 bits on this, it's still okay and it's very good, yet it is not up to the standards of RAW. This is why the compression is so important, and how much of a compression you use will give you that idea. Again, when you look at these numbers, you're going to find that there is a significant difference in terms of the way that this camera operates. There is, for the lack of a better word, S1H does what consumer cameras do. It crops it for you in the screen. So you get in 1:1, 2:1, 3:2, all these ratios. And what you're doing is you're cropping it instead of cropping it in the post. Whereas in Blackmagic, you're using as much of the potential that the camera has, even though it starts cropping at some point, to get the most out of the camera. And this is one thing that I truly like about Blackmagic, is because it's designed for you to make the decision at the end of the day when you're in the editing room deciding what the crop should be, instead of camera dictating, or you having the camera dictate what your framing is going to be. For me, that is a very critical point. As a filmmaker, that is what I look for. On the reverse side, if you look at these cameras, the codec that you're getting from a Blackmagic is very different in terms of a cinematic look. So if your intention is to get those crisp, very real Sony-like, I would say, images out of a camera, Panasonic is going to give you that. So you're going to have great wedding photographs. It looks just like a modern age look. But when you do it on a Blackmagic, it's going to give you a different look, because it's going to have still the renditions of a filmic look, or what I would call something of a nostalgic look, because the color tones and everything else slightly different. It has still a age of photography look. What I mean is the times when it was, you knew that it came out of a film. So you had Aqua film, or you had Codec film, or you had Fuji films. These are the grains and the color that the chemicals would interact with, give you that look. This is what we're having with Blackmagic. Is giving you that certain tonalities that may be something that is to your taste, or it may be something that you'll say, I only want to have it look like it came up a medical chart, and it's got the clinical look of a very crisp image. That's what S1H is. So that's what you can get if you're using it. And it's very good, because sometimes that's exactly what you want to do. If you're doing product photography, or if you're doing fashion shoots, this is going to serve your purpose. Conversely, it's not to say Blackmagic will not give you a look. It will give you a look with a signature. That's what I would call. When I look at the photographs that come out of a S1H, it is very similar in lines to anything else that's out in the market. You can almost tell that it is in the same category, or using the same type of sensors as, for example, Sony's or Canon's and everything else, because they form what they call the look of the modern age, the look of clinical look, with very sharp lenses and a lot of contrast to give you a very detailed image. Beyond that, we have to look at the usability, and that's what I always tell my students. Say, you got to look at the camera as an instrument. How would you use the S1H? It has, for example, autofocusing, but try to see if that autofocus works. If it's going, the subject is moving away or coming towards the camera, it will always lose that focus, and that is a killer, because that means that autofocus cannot be relied upon. That means you have to go with manual focus. Then you have no choice of using it properly. If the subject is moving, that is not what you're looking for. So it limits in your ability to use it. Okay, if you look at the Panasonic, it is not designed in the same way. It's designed with the idea that you are going to focus by tapping on the screen, or you're going to do manual focus. And that's, to this day, with all that technology in the market, with Aries and Reds, people still use manual focus lenses. And that's what the cinema lenses are. You focus it, and you have a focus puller that gets you that focus. So for me, using it in a way that is intended, as in Blackmagic for cinema, is more important than having an unreliable system with the S1H. It is not to say that it's not a camera that works well. in terms of video, but its autofocus capabilities still need a lot of upgrading. It should be in the same category as a Canon, but it's not. And if you look at the way the Sony has come out with the Sony A7R Mark IV, look at that image quality and that ability to capture in focus images, the eye tracking. It is superb. They have nailed it, and that is what I would have wanted to see in the S1H. Conversely, Blackmagic is not saying I'm going to compete in that category. It's saying I'm here to serve a purpose, and that purpose is to provide the ability to make a film on a very small budget. Which brings me to the point of prices. S1H, as you know, is about $4,000, and that is quite a lot of money. But if you look at the Blackmagic 6K, it's only $2,500. I said $1,500 difference, and what is the difference for? I mean, the capabilities, well, Blackmagic certainly outshines it in the slow motion department, and quality is there. So what makes this camera S1H as expensive as it is? Well, it's a marketing point of view. So what it's saying is that I'm giving you a camera and I want to price it in this range because I see myself more in the line of Nikon, Canon instead of Blackmagic and Sony. So that is where the difference becomes very crucial. Again, what I will emphasize is it depends on your desired use. If you're doing wedding and if you're doing fashion and if you're doing events, this may serve you better to have it instead of a Blackmagic, because Blackmagic is, again, has a certain look that is designed to give you that cinematic look. And if that is not the category, or that's not the way that you have been wanting to express your artistic expression, then it is a very different, unique way of going. So it gives you a lot of options. Now, before I end this, I want to mention another important factor, which is the mounts. We know that Panasonic has been producing L mounts. We know Leica has it, which are extremely expensive. Sigma is just coming around the corner making all these L lenses, which I find it very good. They're going to be having excellent quality and everything else. But that means your existing line of lenses, whether you are a Canon, Nikon, or a Fuji user, cannot be transferable in any form. But at least with the Blackmagic, you can use your Canon mount lenses on it and get pretty good results. So that means you have a less of an investment point of view if you already own Canon lenses. Or conversely, if you own Nikon lenses, you can sell them and you can buy used Canon gear for a relatively good price. But because the lenses that from Sigma and Panasonic and Leica are already new and they're selling at a much higher price, your initial investment is going to be a lot more. Plus the fact that you're getting Resolve with Blackmagic, which is going to be your editing software, saving you probably about $500 to $800 a year on paying Adobe Premiere, which a lot of people, I think, are quite unhappy with when they increase each month their amounts, or if they are on a plan, let's say, that they sign up for, all of a sudden see their prices just go up 30-40% just because the plan ended and they are prorated to the new plan. So that's all those things. But with Resolve, you got a great ability, which is film's quality, film industry quality, editing software that you can use. So design-wise, it's very different. Usability is very different. One thing I will also mention, which I think is quite important and people have missed out on, is the S1H has fan noise that will interfere if you're using recording instruments right by the camera itself. So external recording is very important. You have to be able to use it. You can plug in and put all this gear on top of it and have the wires run into the camera, which can be done on Blackmagic as well. But Blackmagic is a little different because their audio system is designed to handle a much better pickup sound or background sound, and much more pleasing if you do not have any recording systems. Plus they have the inputs to give you that ability to record very high quality internally. I always use external recorders and match the sound in post to create the videos that I do or the films that I do. but that may not be everybody's cup of tea, where people want to put stuff on their cameras and record. Again, going back to the quality and the usability, I think Blackmagic in that department still has an advantage. Beyond that, the price range, again, Blackmagic beats out the S1H. For me, investing S1H would require a little bit more in terms of the things that are being offered. I would love to see an autofocus system that works just because it's a Sony. Then it would have made a big improvement in that department. I would have possibly considered it. And also the fact that S1H is here, probably the Mark II is going to come out in the next year or so, because there are going to be so many refinements that needs to be done on it. And relatively new camera from all perspectives. So we still have a long way of exploring and discovering this camera. So in your investments, you need to take these considerations. If you have already placed an order, that's good. If you haven't, check out the details, and now you can make a more informed decision whether you want Blackmagic or S1H. But at least you are informed, and you can give your opinion to anyone who feels that you have learned something through this video. And I hope we meet in the next review that I will be doing, comparing again the S1H to GH5, where we'll talk in details of what the differences are, and the new camera that will be coming out as GH6. You didn't know about that, you will hear it on this channel. And I thank you for watching. I see you in our next review.